Let me tell you the story of how I discovered that I had ADHD. I was under the impression, just like a lot of people, that ADHD is like, oh, squirrel. Like, nobody can keep their attention, you know, kids bouncing off the walls. And I always thought that, you know, that's what it is. So I didn't really know much about it except for, as I said, like what I saw in TV, movies, and things like that. And then one of my friends has ADD specifically, which, just a note, ADD is no longer an actual thing. ADHD is what it's called now, and it's just the inattentive type or the hyperactive type. And I was diagnosed with a combination, which I didn't even know was a possibility. But that makes a lot of sense based on, you know, me, because I couldn't figure out which type I was. What sent me down this rabbit hole is I was watching a newer YouTube channel that just blew up called Cinema Therapy, and they had put out a video on talking about the movie Elf and how he has, like, you know, he's very energetic like a child and maybe even has like some ADHD symptoms. And so they're talking about themselves, and you know, one of them says he has severe ADD, and he mentioned that ADD is not like a lack of attention, it's everything grabbing your attention all at once.
ADD is not attention deficit disorder, it's attention mismanagement disorder.
You saw that guy, he's certifiably insane.
When someone has ADD, like I do, clinical, like very strong ADD, you can't shut other things out. Most people can just like focus on a thing, right? Yeah. And just kind of like, oh, there's noise. I can just kind of block that out.
Hi.
And that part of the brain,
Hello.
There's a chemical imbalance and it doesn't function properly. So everything gets in.
You did it! Congratulations!
Him playing, oh, that guy looks like a pirate if I squint. Like, you can't not think those things.
Yeah.
You don't have the filter that everyone else has where you can just kind of block that out. So it's...
With maturity and adulthood, you can, like, not have to say it.
Yeah.
But the thoughts will.
It's still happening. It's always happening.
When he said that, I was like, what? It's not like a lack of attention. It's being pulled in 100 different directions all at one time. And that struck a chord with me because that is literally my life. Being stuck, you know, pulled in 100 different directions, paying attention to like 5 different things at one time, and needing more stimulus and things like that. So that led me to Google a lot and look up more ADHD things. And the more I looked up, the more I'm like, I fit the bill exactly. I'm like, I need a psychiatrist appointment. So I finally made one, and I went on February 12th. And it was just a video call, and that's all it took. Because I told her about my life. I told her about like how my teenage years were, my childhood, and like how everything's been. And even my husband, she talked to him so he can either corroborate and give her some other insights too. And she's like, she said that I fit the bill exactly for ADHD. Man, that was a weight off my shoulders, because I was like, I'm not crazy. I do have this. I'm officially diagnosed now, and I have medicine and everything that I can take. But I just wanted to talk about ADHD because I know that a lot of people do not understand what ADHD is. They don't understand how it affects people. They don't understand that it affects your entire life. Let me read you some of the symptoms of ADHD. Makes careless mistakes a lot. Difficulty sustaining attention. Does not appear to listen. Struggles to follow through with instructions. Has difficulty with organization. Avoids or dislikes tasks requiring sustained mental effort. Loses things. Is easily distracted. Is forgetful in daily activities. Loses things is a really big one. I lose my keys. I lose my phone multiple times a day. And, you know, just overall forgetfulness. So that's of the inattentive. And then there's also the hyperactive version, which is, you know, constant fidgeting. Like, you cannot stop. Even if you're like trying to sleep at night, like I constantly bother my husband. I'm like always wiggling my leg or something. Difficulty remaining seated. I don't really have that much, but when I was like a child, probably, yeah. They might run or climb excessively for like children, or just be like for an adult, be like restless. They might have trouble sleeping. They might have executive dysfunction, and just not have, you know, think all that well. In some cases, people have a hard time sleeping. I don't know if I said that. And they also just feel like they don't have energy. And that's the weird thing about it. It's a lot of people with ADHD, they'll wake up and they will have so much energy for a day or 2 or 3, maybe even a week. And then there's other days where they will wake up and the weight of the world comes crashing down. And I was even on Reddit, and a lot of people were talking about the same kind of issues I have with, where it's hard to even get out of bed. Like you just feel like a zombie, like you can't think, you can't do anything. Everything feels like it's 1,000 miles away to get to. Even just like making lunch or just doing some of your chores that you have on your list to do. It just feels like the weight of the world is crashing down. And for me, I've always felt those kinds of things. I've always felt these kind of symptoms and issues and things like that based on ADHD. And I was just like silently trying to cope my whole life. And I have a lot of different coping mechanisms that I figured out on my own. Some of them are healthy, some of them are not. So I got off track a little bit, but some of the other symptoms are talks excessively, acts as if driven by a motor. Adults will often feel inside as if they are driven by a motor. Dude, whenever I hyper focus, I don't know if you, okay, so let me talk about hyper focusing since we brought that up. So it says adults will often feel as if they're driven by a motor. Hyper focusing is a thing that ADHD people do when some random topic sparks their interest, or some random task, and that's all they can think about. Or at least, okay, I'm not gonna say everyone's like this. I'm just gonna talk about me. So for me, when I hyper focus, all I can think about is the task that my brain decided to focus on. So let's say that I decided to clean the house one day. That is the only thing that I can think of until it's done. And I will, it feels like I don't even have a choice at that point. That is what has to be done. It's like a compulsion. Like I'll have to hyper focus on that specific thing, and then everything else is gone. And it could happen for a few hours, a couple days, or even a little bit longer than that. Like if I have like a larger kind of thing that I had decided to hyper focus on, it will be longer than that. And my friends would complain that it's extremely hard to get me off one of those benders. It's extremely hard to divert me to something else if I have hyper focused on one thing. I don't want to do anything else. Nothing else brings me joy. That is like everything. And it could last me a couple hours. It could last me a couple days. And I often couldn't even like think of anything else. You know, sometimes hyper focusing is a blessing because it could help me get something done that I need to get done. But a lot of times it is not, because I also have those days where it takes a toll. It's like for every day that I get that, all that energy, all of that, you know, will to do something, I have the days where it's like I dipped into the bank and now I don't have enough resources for other daday. I used it all hyper focusing. I cannot regulate that on my own. Okay, so here's some more symptoms for the impulsive kind. Interrupts or intrudes upon others. So if you're constantly on accident, not even on purpose, like you're constantly finding yourself interrupting other people when you're speaking, and even though you're trying to like you're not trying to be rude, you just find yourself like talking over them. I do that all the time. Like somebody will still be talking and I'll be like finishing their sentences for them. And it's like so rude. You need to just like let them speak, but I'm just trying to like help. And it's, for me, I'm so sorry if I've done that to you and it's annoyed you. I know that it's a problem, and I like physically cannot stop. Not that I don't try, but yeah, I'm just saying it's difficult. Now I understand that it's related to ADHD. So difficulty waiting or taking turns. I feel like younger people are going to have much more of an issue with this, but like I definitely still have an issue with like patience. You know, I'm like, ugh. The combined presentation, the individual meets the criteria for both inattention and hyperactive impulsive ADHD presentations. So me, and they can change over time. It specifically states, I just have some notes here just because I get sidetracked, guys. I get so sidetracked. There's, you know, mild, moderate, and severe. So like some people might have ADHD and it doesn't really bother them. It might be a little annoying. And some people have it very severely, where it's pretty obvious and they have a hard time getting through school. They can't study, things like that. ADHD people have a very difficult time focusing on a task that they don't find like fun or interesting. It is extremely difficult for them to get themselves to do that task, and sometimes impossible. So for me, schoolwork was really difficult. Studying was basically just non-existent for me. I always had the worst study habits. Now I'm understanding that it is actually because of ADHD. That's the thing, is like for myself, and I'm learning a lot of other people, we like beat ourselves up over this. And you are constantly told by outside sources that you're being lazy, you need to just do it. Just like buckle down and do it. You're just not even trying. Or, you know, you need to build better habits, or blah, 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 blah. And it's all things based on a neurotypical brain that we're told. And sure, like, you know, it's not like we're not trying. Like, I'm trying. I'm always been trying. I've never been like apathetic. I've been accused of being lazy so many times in my life. And when I'm working harder than anyone else there, they just can't tell because I'm starting here and they started here, because of, you know, some of the issues that I have. And it's extremely frustrating. For me, I'm just lucky that like I got my dad's brain, because that's how I managed to get through school without like failing. A lot of people that have ADHD, they have a hard time getting through school because of their inability to regulate their emotions, regulate their attention. And as I said, like sometimes you just wake up and you just like feel frozen. It's not something to take lightly at all. ADHD is something that affects your whole brain, your whole thought process. Every issue that I have had, like in, you know, brain that's not like normal, I look it up and I find out it's possibly related to ADHD. And it just makes me look through my life and think, wow, like it's not that I'm this lazy person, because you start telling yourself that you are that person. And if you could just do it, if you could just like change this one thing, or if you could just make, I don't know, like it's hard to say. It's like if you could just do what people are telling you to do, basically, that, you know, maybe if you do this one thing, it'll work out. Or if you learn how to do this other thing, or if you try to build this habit. But if you don't know yourself and know why your thought process is the way it is, you're gonna try ways that don't work for you. So I highly recommend, if any of this sounds familiar to you, like if it sounds like, if you resonate with any of the stuff I'm saying, I would definitely recommend taking a little test. I'll link one down below, to see if you potentially have ADHD. It is severely underdiagnosed for a lot of women because they slide right under the radar. When I was young, there was kind of like a witch hunt going on. I don't know if other people would describe it that way, but I describe it that way, where it felt like everyone right and left was getting diagnosed with ADHD. And there's a lot more information about it nowadays than there was when I was younger in the early 2000s. A lot of young boys who were getting overdiagnosed because they were loud and over talkative and really energetic, and a lot of girls were underdiagnosed because maybe they had the inattentive kind and they were just not doing as well in school or things like that. And on the outside, it may look like they're just dumb or they don't care or they're apathetic, when really they're struggling inside and they might not know even how to say that to you. So if this sounds like you or your kid, I would definitely look into ADHD on your own. CHADD.org, CHADD.org is a good place to go for information, and I'll also link a couple things down below so you can like kind of look things on your own. There's also a really good YouTube channel called How to ADHD, and she talks about ADHD brain. I started watching those videos when, before I got diagnosed, and when I first looked into ADHD issues and things like that, really resonated with what she was saying.
Click your pen on and off. Your long-term goals change at least once a month. You're not sure what your long-term goals are. You're not sure what long-term goals are. You're either being completely lazy or trying to do everything at the same time. Your sense of time is now and not now. It's usually not now. I'll take care of it later means I've already forgotten what you're talking to me about. You're watching another video at the same time as this one.
It was the only time I've ever felt like somebody actually understands the way my brain works. I was never able to feel like that before in my life. I had just been coping on my own for my entire life, which got me through high school pretty well because high school was extremely easy. And whenever I hit college is when I started having issues. For other reasons, maybe I'll talk about that in a different video. But I'm just saying, not every ADHD person has issues in school. A lot of them do. But a lot of them might start having issues later into adulthood. Some people grow out of it, some people don't. Some people are like 50, 60 years old and maybe not even know that they had ADHD their whole life, but maybe they were called an underachiever, or maybe they were called scatterbrained. People who have ADHD often pick up terms like scatterbrain, forgetful, lazy, disorganized, things like that. So if that sounds like you, if you've been called those kinds of things a lot, definitely look into it. Like I was saying, I'm making this video because, again, like, it's not just for me to like, oh, like tell you guys about my issues or something, but I really do believe that ADHD is very misunderstood. And with how many people have it, I think it was like 2 to 5% of the population or something like that. Forgive me if I'm mistaken, but with how many people have it, a lot of people do not know. A lot of people have it in addition to other issues. A lot of children who have it don't carry it into adulthood, so lucky them. Hopefully, this has been pretty educational. I'm hoping that this will help introduce a lot of you to ADHD. It is genetic. I don't know if it's only genetic, but it is genetic. I don't remember where I was reading this, but if you have ADHD and you have a child, that child is 50% likely to have it. So 50-50 shot that your child will also have ADHD. Like people in my family, nobody else is diagnosed with ADHD, but I bet you at least 1 or 2 people have it. Thank you for watching. I hope this was educational for you. I know not all of you will be able to relate to this, but I hope that a few of you that do seek help and talk to a psychiatrist. My particular experience was that it only took me one appointment for her to know that, yes, I definitely had it. Maybe if yours is not as prominent as mine, it'll take longer for her to figure that out, but it helped me get the medication that I need, and it's also helping me find resources to figure out what else I can do to improve my life based on the new knowledge that I have. You can't just beat a dead horse, and you can't just like keep banging on the wall that's not gonna come down. I need to build a staircase to go over that wall using the tools that I now have. And I know this is like probably really dramatic. Some of you probably just think I'm being really dramatic, but I feel like this is extremely important, and I don't want any of you that might actually be suffering with this and not understand why, and maybe your self-esteem is taking a hit because you don't understand why. I don't want that to happen to you like it did me for so many years. I'm not gonna stop doing crafts entirely, but I am gonna do, I'm not gonna say like gonna have crafts every single week or anything like that. So I hope you guys can enjoy this content as well. Anyway, I'm probably rambling again, but yeah, so if you want to follow my fitness journey and my mental health journey, and if you have any other questions like that, feel free to subscribe or write down in the comments, or you know, share this video with anybody you feel like might also have undiagnosed ADHD. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.